and hi, Mom.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I got my coffee. We just did a little check to make sure we both had our coffees. Very important.
Okay. Yeah.
I just had to make sure my mic was on the right setting. I've had some really tragic audio mishaps lately with recording things that were silent. So
Yeah.
I just had a moment of paranoia. But we're
Rightly
good.
so. Rightly
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I'm going to start off this way, Mom, because you know me. It's a new month. It's your first episode in June.
Right.
Don't hate me. Do you have a June intention?
I hate you.
I know.
No, I'm kidding. I don't. But now I'm going to have to find one.
Think about it for a sec.
Yeah. I don't want to leave everybody here waiting with bated breath.
Okay.
I will think of one, and then I will tell you.
Okay.
When I get it.
Okay. Mine is to continue my early mornings. That's one of mine, one of many.
Good.
Because I started waking up early and I'm loving it, which actually, okay, that makes me think. I normally say all this stuff at the end of the podcast, but let me just say right off the top, I have started vlogging again. I'm having so much fun with it. And I would love, love, love for all my happies to go watch my vlogs and subscribe to my channel at Happiest Sober on YouTube. And while we're here real quick, there are still some spots on my sober trip to Portugal.
Oh, Maddie, that's going to be so much fun.
I know. So if any part of you is feeling a little pull, go check out. I have it linked in the show notes. And I would love, love, love to have you on that trip. I'm so excited for it. But on to what we're going to be chatting about today, which, Mom, you are the queen of this, actually, which is how to navigate being around, I want to say being around drunk people, but like being around people who are drinking, socializing with people who are drinking, being kind of the sober one. Because we talk a lot about like socializing sober and like tools for that, but it can present its own kind of specific challenge if you're around people who are really drinking, even drinking heavily. I know I always go backwards to your early days, but can you remember your experiences with being around people drinking and how that felt for you in your earlier sobriety? Doesn't even have to be the very beginning, but
I think I can't remember, actually. I'm trying to remember what it was like. I'm sure, in my first year, I would have been uncomfortable, right? And I think also I probably didn't do a lot of, like, I didn't put myself in a lot of situations.
Right. We were a bit opposite that way.
Yeah. Where there would have been, like, really for me, my whole friend group, I think, even just kind of shifted. Like, I just, I didn't put myself in a lot of situations like that. So I honestly, I'm so sorry. I really can't, I can't remember specifically. I know that it wasn't easy. I know, look, and I guess I was trying to think back to really early days.
Yeah, just any point.
I know times even when I would have maybe been, I don't know, 4 or 5 years in, where, if I was in social settings with my family, like with my brother and sister, I think I felt like kind of on the outs.
Yeah.
Right? Like they kind of, because I think part of it, Maddie, this is interesting to remember. I think part of it was, a big part of who I thought I was going to be as an adult. This is funny. Was, you have this idea like, at the end of the day, you're going to come home from work, or, in my case, I was home with kids, but your husband would come home, you'd have a drink together. You did the
Wow, that's
grown
so
up
funny
thing,
to hear you say.
right? Yeah. And so my brother and sister were kind of doing that thing.
Yeah.
Right. They had their, they were like being adults, having the drink and drinking, kind of, sort of responsibly. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? At least at family functions, like when
Mhm.
my mom and dad were there, no one was drinking in excess or anything. But I think I kind of felt like the odd man out, maybe you know, the one with the problem, kind of the loser of the but, like that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think I felt like that for a little bit initially because as I've shared before, we didn't used to have, like, alcohol wasn't a thing in our house because of my dad's drinking. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until sort of they had, you know, my brother and sister maybe had partners that then it became sort of infiltrated back
Mhm.
into our lives in our home. So yeah, I think I felt a little kind of out of sorts then.
Mhm.
But, I also started therapy pretty young. I mean, I had AA, but started therapy, and I think I just also was able to work through a lot of those feelings. And that was part of my process of becoming really comfortable with who I was in my own skin sober, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, I don't recall being at any like events with neighbors where everyone was drinking and I wasn't, and I felt uncomfortable. I didn't.
Mm.
Like, I didn't. I was always pretty comfortable. Certainly, like with activities you guys did. You did, dancing and all that jazz, and um, weekends away. At competitions, people were drinking and I wasn't. Didn't feel uncomfortable. Like that never bothered me.
Okay.
I think it was just maybe initially not feeling part of my tribe, being my
Yes.
family. Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly
Yeah.
what we've talked about, that like I can relate where the hardest times for me in early sobriety would be
Mm-hmm.
being with family drinking
Mm-hmm.
compared to being with like friends or in any sort of other social setting where people are drinking. It's
Mm-hmm.
harder to feel on the outs with your closest people.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
maybe if you're
Yeah.
not super close to your family, it might be hardest for you to be around your best friends, like whoever kind of your main people
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
to be with people who are the people who you want to feel the most connected to and like you
Mm-hmm.
belong. And then feeling
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, I'm like not a part of this anymore
Yeah.
is such
Yeah.
a strange feeling.
Yes. Yeah. And I think too, I probably felt a little misunderstood again with the people that, you know, like I was closest with. Yeah.
Say more about that.
Hmm. I think because I was just sort of always uh, in some kind of trouble or chaos
Mm,
or something in my life, right? During my drinking years. Um, yeah, I think I felt like uh, certainly more like the black sheep of the family,
yeah.
sort of more a little judged in that way, right?
Hmm.
So, which, like I just want to say that may or may not have been true that anyone was judging me,
Right.
right?
But it was your experience or what you
Mm-hmm.
believed
What
they were
I
thinking,
believed,
right?
and then that became my experience of myself, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So interesting.
This is so funny, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of taking me back. This isn't really like super relevant to what we're talking about, but it reminds me of how when I first got sober, I suddenly had like 1,000 questions for you about your early
Right.
sobriety. Like, I just remember,
Yeah.
like, I always just knew you were sober, but because I hadn't lived through it, there was so much I would have never thought to ask you until I went through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being early sobriety and really struggling with like not drinking with Sasha and Cass when they were drinking,
Yeah.
and then saying to you like, what was that like for you with your siblings? And
Right.
like
Right.
things
Right.
I just never would have thought of. So I don't know, having this conversation is like taking me back to those days in a funny
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
know. Funny, eh?
Mhm.
So, but I mean, the really, really great news is all these years later. And I mean, literally from the majority of my sober life, um, the majority of my sober life, and for sure your 3 or 4 years. I mean, I know you're coming up to 5 sober
Mhm.
summers, I think, right? But
Yeah,
The
5.
first 5, yeah, but the first couple might have felt hard.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I'm saying is the majority of my time sober has not been hard. It hasn't been
Mhm.
like it was in the very
Mhm.
beginning. And here you are coming up to your 5th sober summer, and it's not a
Mhm.
thought for you either. So
Yeah.
that's the good news,
Yes,
right? That's the good
100%.
news. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
It'll
And
shift and change. Hmm.
yeah, and Mom, what has been like, can you talk more about for you the experience? So for instance, like you've spent all your life as like the sober one surrounded by people drinking, like the
Yeah.
majority of your life.
Hmm.
And even, once I started drinking and my sister started drinking, it'd be like family nights and you'd be the sober one.
Hmm.
Like what does that feel like for you?
Yeah. Um, it doesn't feel like anything for me. Like it doesn't, it doesn't feel any different. Um, like I'm just always uh, living my living my life, doing my thing, whatever is going on around us. I mean, listen, it's maybe a little different when it's your kids because you're always sort of, uh, at least for me as a parent, watching out or wanting the best interests of your
Yeah.
kid. Yeah. So, but in terms of, socializing in any kind of situation or, even with you guys hanging out and everyone's drinking, it's just not a thought. I mean, my thought might be like, where's my coffee? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I'm just not, I'm just not aware. I'm not dialed into what's in anyone else's glass. It's completely irrelevant to me. And it is completely irrelevant to, like, it has no impact on the extent to which I have fun
Mhm.
or enjoy my evening or whatever it is I'm going to.
Wait,
Yeah.
can I come
Hmm.
with a question?
Sure.
If it was up to you,
Yeah.
if you were gonna go to like a party or a dinner or something, and would you prefer if you could pick for people not to drink? Or are
Nope.
you like, is it so irrelevant to you? You don't
So
care.
irrelevant to me. Couldn't care less.
Interesting.
I know. Would it matter to you if you could pick?
Okay, this is so funny because
Yeah.
as you're talking, I was thinking like I've gone through so many different phases of it where
Hmm.
in my early sobriety, I was so aware, so highly aware of when people would start to drink.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this. That would be when, like, if Jack and my sisters would start drinking, I would be like, okay, I need to get my mocktail or my alcohol free wine and like pour my drink at the same time as them and do the cheers and like
Yeah.
feel like I'm still a part of this whole thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was really important to me. But I just remember always being so aware when people started drinking, like, okay, and now I'm not. They're
Yeah.
starting to drink and now
Yeah.
I'm not drinking. Now here I am staying sober, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember when the shift happened of one day sitting there drinking a coffee completely oblivious and looking down and seeing like a half drank beer in front of
Yeah.
Jack and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that he started drinking. And
Yeah.
that used to be the biggest moment for me of, okay, here we go. This would be my moment to be so excited to drink. And now I'm not going to drink. And it being such this conscious thing. And then
Yes.
getting to the stage where I don't really think about it when other people start. But what I will say that's interesting is that in my early sobriety, and this is so funny because I know it's very, very much the opposite for people,
Hmm.
but I actively wanted people around me to drink, people who were drinkers. Like, wanted to, like, in a weird way, kind of live vicariously a little bit.
Hmm.
And then B, I wanted to feel, I didn't want to ever feel like they weren't drinking because of me not drinking.
Hmm.
Like, I was very
Hmm.
like, do whatever you would normally do
Yeah.
because it made me incredibly uncomfortable to imagine they would ever not drink because of me. I think too, because when I was drinking, I would have freaking hated to not drink. So then I internalized, like, I know that when I was drinking, I was only having fun when I was drinking, and I want
Yeah.
them to have fun And
Yeah.
if they're a drinker, then that must be the only way for them to have fun. So like have
Right.
your drinks and like have
Right.
your
Right.
fun and it'll be a good vibe. Like that was really how I felt.
Right. 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 I can relate to that. Like I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to ever change what they're doing,
Yeah.
but but one thing you were saying about like in the very beginning when you were first sober and people would start drinking, you wanted to make sure you had your mocktail in your glass, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And I think the place that you end up at which is where I am.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't care less what's in my glass. What's in my glass doesn't make me a part of the event,
Mhm.
right? So you felt like having something, right, to be able to do the cheers, but
Mattered.
it mattered.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's in my glass isn't the thing that makes me part of the event. I am
Mhm.
the thing that makes me part of the event, right?
Mhm.
Like my attitude, what I bring to it, the energy I show up with, my own thought process around it. Like, am I telling myself, like in my early days, like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I don't belong here. Everybody's probably thinking things about me because I'm not
Mhm.
drinking and
Mhm.
I don't fit in and I'm not like them and I'm not as much fun as I used to be. Right. So you can show up with that energy. And that's exactly how you are going to move through that night. That's going to be your experience of that night.
Mhm.
Or you can be here where you realize whatever is in here has nothing to do. What I'm drinking, what I'm ingesting has nothing to do. I get to show up, be as much a part of it, have as much fun as I choose to allow myself to have, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you get to that place.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think too, something that just came to my mind as well is that it can be such a different experience. And I definitely like at the end want to share tips for people who are struggling with like socializing with people who are
Yeah.
drinking, being the sober one, being around drunkenness, all of that. Maybe at the end we can share some like tips and reminders. But it's funny how like different situations can feel different because like so in my earlier sobriety, I would really struggle to be around family drinking. Like that
Mm-hmm.
gave me the biggest sense of FOMO and sadness and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like I'm not doing that. That used to be our thing. We'd be so excited to drink together, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the more time goes on, you have new experiences and anything that's new might bring back up that feeling a little bit. So
Yeah.
like for me something that came to mind as you were just talking about that was
Mm-hmm.
my first sober bachelorette party I went to
Mm-hmm.
was I was over 2 years sober. Yeah, I was over 2 years sober, maybe like 2.5 years sober. But I was going into a situation where I only knew the bride and her sister. And then it was a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of girls who I didn't know. And I remember thinking in advance, like, okay, going into this situation, it was going to be a really big drinking thing because I was in a group chat and it was like this day, pub crawl, this day, beer Olympics, this day, like very,
Oh, right.
very heavy
Yes.
drinking thing.
Yeah.
And I remember having this thought going into it, not of like, I wish I was drinking, but of like, ooh, am I going to be a buzzkill to these people? Like, I'm going into this
Mm.
situation with people I don't know, and it's a big drinking event. And am I going to be the like, oh, why is she here? Like kind of that feeling came up for
Right.
me. And even being there, I will say too, again, like just being in such a situation that I hadn't encountered yet in sobriety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We went early. My sister and I went early and we were helping to set up. And then again, I was with all these people I didn't know, and we were staying in the same like Airbnb together in a house.
Yeah.
And I remember setting it up, and then some people started cracking drinks. And I remember having the thought of like, ooh, this would have been the time where it would feel like hitting the easy button with all these people who I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Just like
Mm-hmm.
not even from a confidence standpoint, but it was
Yeah.
almost more so from like a social battery standpoint of like, oh,
Okay.
this is going to be a big weekend with all these people who are strangers. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be me being like, oh, thank God, let me get wine in me and this is going to feel easy. So, like, it's
Oh,
just funny the things
interesting.
that can
Yeah.
come up. Like, even if you're at a point where you've gone to a place of like, I'm confident socializing or whatever, like, it's okay too for a new situation
Mm-hmm.
you're
To
encountering
trigger.
to just bring up those
Yeah.
different thoughts. But then what I will say, and here's the thing, anything, this has been my experience,
Yeah.
anything that poses any sort of challenge or brings up any sort of discomfort or just those moments of like, okay, I'm noticing like this feeling coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Those are always like on the other side of those moments is the best sober gratitude. Always. Like
Yeah.
anything that feels like a challenge on the other side of it waiting for you is, oh, thank God
Yeah.
I'm sober. And like that
Yes.
weekend, I
Mm-hmm.
first of all had a freaking blast. I had so much fun. I had this experience of like letting loose, like not caring, having a
Right.
great time.
Yeah.
But to be the sober one, waking up at in a big house Airbnb that you're staying out with people who are like partying. Oh my God. Such a good feeling. Like I had a great time at night and in the morning.
Right. Right, Maddie.
Yeah.
So true. And and how did you find the people that you were around who were
Great.
drinking? Right?
Easy, fine. You know what
Mm-hmm.
was actually funny? I actually did, side note, a full episode on this Bachelorette um in the earlier days of this
Mm-hmm.
podcast. So you'd have to, I think I want to say it was episode 30 something.
Yeah.
But what was funny too was that like I came with my like pre-made mocktails and I like stocked the fridge with a bunch of my drinks
I
and
was gonna say,
um
remember
yeah,
you
you
packed a
know,
lot of drink.
yeah. And a lot of people didn't even realize for a bit that I wasn't
Yeah.
drinking. Like I remember one of the things we did was like a pub crawl um where we were on like a like tour bus like with a guide who
Mm-hmm.
was taking us to like wineries and different places. And when we got to the first place, because he had us, we were in the bus and he goes, I was planning to like tell him when I got a moment of like, oh, I don't drink, will there be things for me? Because it was like everywhere we went they were like giving us, it was part of the package of what we had.
Right. Right.
And he said on the bus, okay, raise your hand if you're a wine drinker, raise your hand if you're a beer drinker, kind of thing, trying to get an idea. And I was like, this isn't my moment right now to raise my hand and say, neither. So when we got there, I just like went over to him and it was like, hey, I don't drink. Like, will there be like, did they have mocktails or anything? And he was like, oh my God, yeah, like remind me. He was so good about it. He was like, remind me wherever we
Yeah.
go. If I don't remember, but like I've got you kind of thing. And then one girl
That's
overheard it.
nice.
Yeah, he was really
Yeah.
sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But one girl there overheard it and said like, oh, that's really cool. Like that you don't drink
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And then she ended up chatting with me about it later at a different part of
Right.
the weekend.
Yeah.
But there was another night, second night, we were all playing like games and
Yeah.
someone opened the fridge and took out one of my drinks and was like, whose is this? Can I have it? And I said, it's mine, but it doesn't have alcohol. And she went, oh, and put it back. But again, it was kind of a moment of people being like, oh, like didn't
Yeah.
realize you weren't drinking, right? So
Right. I
yeah, so that
know.
was a
And we think
great
everybody's
experience for
watching every
me.
move we're making,
Yes.
and they're
Yeah.
not.
I
Yeah.
know.
Sorry, I
Isn't
didn't
that
mean
so
to
funny?
interrupt.
No,
Yes.
you didn't. It's so
Mm-hmm.
true. It's so
Mm-hmm.
true. And I think the number one thing to remember for socializing sober is that like you just have to get through the beginning of the night.
Yeah.
If it feels hard for you, you
Mm-hmm.
just have to get through those first couple drinks.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
And then it's true. It's true. Because as people get sort of more, I don't know, sloppy or less inhibited,
Mm-hmm.
well, one thing happens is that it's kind of like as everybody becomes less inhibited, so do you. Because
That's
people
the
aren't paying
thing.
attention,
That's the thing.
right? And it allows you to kind of gain access to that kind of inner freedom that's
Mm-hmm.
waiting for you there anyways. But
Yes.
when nobody else is really aware of what's going on, when they're not so dialed in, as they get a little more, as they get a little more sloppy or silly, it's like, oh, nobody's really paying attention or really clear on what's going on here. So why do I care? You
Mm-hmm.
find that place to let loose naturally,
Mm-hmm.
and you start experiencing this natural, beautiful little high,
Yeah.
right? And really, you connect to this piece of yourself that, as I said, it's always there,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now you have access to it in those situations, which was something I loved. right? And I
Yes.
remember in the beginning, you would feel like, oh my God, I almost feel like I'm a little drunk
Yes,
because
you get this like fake
it's the same
buzz.
high. Well,
Yeah.
let's not even say it's fake. Let's say
It's
it's just
actually a lot
natural,
more
real
real. Yes.
dopamine
I meant
happening,
almost
right?
fake of like you get this placebo effect,
Yeah,
but you're
yes.
right, Mom. Ours is the real
It's
buzz
just
and
the
theirs
real
is the fake one.
thing.
Yes.
You're just because you're letting go of just all that chatter in your head about the thing that makes us self-conscious and worry. When you realize everyone's kind of drunk around you and they're not paying attention, then yeah, all that chatter, all that worry just sort of like rolls off of you and you're
Mhm.
just sitting there with kind of pure fun, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not that's like that critical little voice in your head kind of it's like you snip the cord from it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And then it's a really cool feeling because then
Yes.
it's like, oh, they're drinking to get there.
To
And
get
I did
there
it all
and
by
you just got
myself.
there. Yes, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So it is really neat. And I mean, I want to just say like it's one thing to just be around people who are drinking and they're no problem. They're just having fun and they're just a little silly because they've had too much to drink and they're not, it's a whole different story if you were having to be around someone,
Like problematic.
constantly who's really
Yes,
problematic
that's a really good
drinker.
point to bring up,
That's,
Mom.
hmm
What tips
hmm
would you give to someone who's listening who's dealing with that?
I would remove yourself from the room. I would
Mhm.
like have really clear boundaries in place for yourself. Like if someone's a problem drinker and in that, I mean, look, someone who's getting who's over drinking and drinking too much, obviously that's still a problem for them. But I'm just saying if their
But it's very
personality isn't
normalized, so a
changing and
lot of
they're
people
yeah,
yeah.
it looks normal, right? But
Yeah,
and
but
maybe
you're
they're
talking
having the
someone
internal
who
suffering like you were having the next morning after. But I'm talking
yes.
about someone whose behavior then is problematic.
Yes, they're
Like,
angry,
right,
they're
they're angry, they're
nasty,
mood,
yeah.
they're not fun to be around. Then yeah, I would remove myself from that situation when they started to have too much to drink. I'd
Mhm.
exit out. I remember my mother always said all the time, because I think I've shared this before as well, but my dad would come home drunk
Mhm.
late at night and then he would just want to sort of, that was the time he was going to air all the dirty laundry, like all the
Aw.
things that he wasn't happy about. But I mean, he wasn't angry. My dad was never an angry drunk, but he just would decide that's the time we'll have the discussions, so it was always that. And another thing, Mimi, I
Oh,
don't
poor
like it when
Granny.
he'd go on. But my mom, who was, who had been in Al Anon for many, many, many years, would say to me, look, you never argue with a drunk, like ever.
That's good
Don't do it.
advice. Yeah.
Don't engage. Don't, So he would say, and another thing, and she'd say, okay, Dave. Right. And just like let it go, till he would sort of fall asleep or have nothing left to say. So,
Mhm.
yeah, don't argue with a drunk. It's pointless.
Yep. Good
They're
tip.
not rational. They don't make sense, and they probably won't remember a lot of it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I think that's what I would do. I would find support.
Yeah.
Like I would
Yep.
find something like Al-Anon, if
Mhm.
you had someone who was problematic.
Mhm.
And I think too, it must be hard for people who uh, have stopped drinking and, maybe their husband's not problematic and that he doesn't become nasty or anything like that, but he still likes to drink.
Big drinker. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that can be really challenging because it's one of those things you used to do with them, you maybe used to do together,
Mhm.
right? But in those instances where, it's no different than you and your sisters, for
I was
instance.
literally going to say
Mm-hmm.
that's for me. I was
Mm-hmm.
single when I got sober, but me and my sisters were all single together and we were
Mm-hmm.
very I mean, we are very
Mm-hmm.
tight, but like especially at that phase COVID, we were only seeing each other. Like
Yeah.
I feel like and maybe it sounds silly to say, but when people share about struggling with like getting sober and their significant other, like that being hard,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I feel like that was how it felt
Yeah.
with my sisters and I, because when it's something that you did together, it
Yeah.
just like it's
Yeah.
an adjustment to
Yes.
not.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, everything about that and that scenario comes down to managing your mind around it. Like, what is the story you want to tell yourself about it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so we can go down that it's not fair. I, or they should quit with me, or this is too hard, or this is right. And when we tell ourselves that, like if you were telling yourself that about the scenario with your sisters, think how much harder that would have been than if you just decided, I'm just going to manage me, my own
Mm-hmm.
life, my own
Mm-hmm.
choices, and I'm going to figure out how do I want to feel in these scenarios,
Yeah.
and then start to tell that story to yourself, because it doesn't have to mean I don't get to have fun anymore, right? It doesn't have to mean, because it's not true. It's not
Mm-hmm.
true. You do
Mm-hmm.
get to have fun, and you get to decide just how fun it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it is a reframe for sure. And I'm not saying it's easy when you're really grieving the loss of it, because that's
Yeah.
part of it too,
You have to
right?
grieve
You've
it.
got to do
Yep.
that. But I say that just to provide evidence for your brain that you can get there, right? You can get there. You literally can reframe it for yourself, and you get to decide what that experience is going to be like when you're with people who are drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good,
Mm-hmm.
Mom. So true. And I think you, like you said, it's a decision. So if you're around people who are, yeah, not fun to be around when they're drinking, problematic,
Mm-hmm.
confrontational, you absolutely get to just set a boundary and
Mm-hmm.
not be there. Choose to not even
Mm-hmm.
be around. Choose to not be around when
Yeah.
they're drinking if you can, or leave. And
Yeah.
then in terms of being around people who are drinking, like I think again, just getting through, if you can trust that like you're gonna initially feel uncomfortable when they
Yeah.
start drinking, it's gonna bring up that FOMO. It's going to bring up, because like that's the part that we all romanticize most, is that
Mm-hmm.
initial like woohoo,
Mm-hmm.
we're popping, like pouring drinks, whatever.
Yeah.
If you can just get past that, then either the result will be like, it can go one of a few ways. Number one is what you said, where they start to get more drunk and then you get to go, oh, I can just like drop my inhibitions, not care, let
Yeah.
loose, have fun, dance, like whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
they're not even noticing anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or it might also bring up intense JOMO for you. If you, joy of missing out,
Yeah.
if you see someone, and that was what I started to experience too, was like being around people drinking and seeing someone who like was really drunk and like reminded me of myself drunk.
Yeah.
Like I
Right.
remember one time in particular, we had someone over for dinner at our place and they were like falling asleep at the dinner table. And it broke
Mm.
my heart because I used to
Yeah.
fall asleep drunk all the time and I would be
Right.
so embarrassed about it.
Right.
And like, so
Right.
seeing these things, Jomo in a very empathetic way,
Yes.
Jomo of
Yes.
like, oh,
I'm glad
that
it's
used
not
to be
me.
me. I'm so grateful it's
Yes.
not. My heart goes out to them. Or just like
Right.
anytime I've seen someone be really like sloppy drunk and maybe
Yeah.
they're like embarrassing themselves a little bit, I'm just like, oh, like poor
Yeah.
them,
You
because
know
that's,
what's coming,
I
what's
know
waiting
they're
for
going to be
them in
so
the morning.
embarrassed in the morning.
Yeah.
I know they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
anxious, like all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
you get
Mm-hmm.
those reminders when it's like watching your past self.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a really good reminder for you of like, oh, that moment that I felt FOMO about earlier in the
Yeah.
night that I was
Yeah.
missing, this is the result of it.
Right.
And I
Right.
don't want this. And I can't have
Right.
that part without this.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
It really does trigger just enormous gratitude, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
And
then being like, I'm so glad I get to wake up
yeah.
tomorrow. And then, and sorry, I know you have a thought. I just wanted to say the third scenario is if you get past that discomfort and
Mm-hmm.
you're just not, it's just not your night and you're not having fun and you're struggling, you get to
Yeah.
go home. You don't
Yes.
have to stay.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay and be like, I should be having fun. Like, it's okay to have nights where you're
That
not
was
having
you.
fun.
Right.
That's going to be life
Yes.
sometimes. And then go home, go enjoy
Yeah.
your night, go have a relaxing night and know you get to wake up tomorrow feeling
Yeah.
good.
Exactly. And I think too, like realizing this, like you have to go through this little piece of feeling uncomfortable to
Yep.
get to the other side. You have
Yep.
to do it. And so if you can just sort of even normalize it, like, oh, this is part of the process. Oh, this is me being sober, getting sober, this is part of what we go through,
Yes.
right? To get to the other side where it's a non-issue,
Yep.
right? It just is. It's part of the process. It's a new muscle you're developing. If you don't do it, you never get the reward,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
You don't get it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think just reminding yourself it's okay. This means I'm actually doing it. Feeling uncomfortable means I'm doing it. I'm doing the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I'm growing. I'm in the process of learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in the process of figuring it out. I'm on the road to the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Good.
I had a member share recently after the May long weekend.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a year and a few months sober, and she was
Mm-hmm.
reflecting like, "Oh, a year ago when the May long weekend came, I was 3 months sober. It was so hard. I had so much FOMO. I struggled so much with it. And now fast forward a year later, and like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about it. I wasn't worried
I
about it. It
know.
felt so great." And what I loved about that was
Mm.
then other members were sharing who it was their first time experiencing the May long weekend sober. They're like, "That's how I feel now. Like I'm in that same
Yeah.
place." And it's
Yeah.
like remembering exactly what you just said, Mom. You can't get to the part where it feels easy and good
Yeah.
and normal to you without first getting through the hard part. It's like getting
Yeah.
through the discomfort is the path there. That is how
It
you get
is.
there. It is
Yes.
literally like just how if you hadn't worked out in years, it's just such an easy analogy. It's
Yeah.
just if you hadn't worked out in years and you started lifting weights, it would feel so hard and you
That's
wouldn't feel
right.
like, "Oh my god, I can't get in shape. I can't get strong." You're like,
You
"No,
just know.
the
Yeah.
hard part is how you build that muscle." And
How
it
you
is a
get there.
muscle to like
Yes.
sobriety is like that. It's something you
Yes.
just have to get through that hard part and push through it.
Yeah. Right. It's like, I always love too. It's kind of similar, this path to sobriety, which is really the path to happiness, right? That's why you're
Mhm.
doing it. You want to
Mhm.
be happy, right?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
that little example, if you think of like happiness as where you're wanting to get to, if we were to call happiness Disneyland, you don't start your drive to Disneyland and, when you're halfway there, go, oh, I'm never going to get there. And you don't turn the car around because you're not, right?
Yes.
You keep going
Yes.
because Disneyland is there up ahead. If I stay on
Mhm.
this road, I'm going to get there. And so,
Yes.
same thing. It feels hard, but you stay on this road because you know you're going to get there, right? And when we go through life avoiding everything that's hard, we just stay stuck. Nothing changes because we keep coming back to what we're already doing,
Mm.
right? And we forget that what we're already doing is way harder,
So much
right?
harder.
Because you've
Yes.
got yourself stuck on that merry-go-round of suffering. It's way harder.
Mhm.
So, yeah, just stay on the road.
Oh my
Stay on
god.
the road to Disneyland slash happiness that you're after,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Meaning happiness, it's not a destination, but it's the
Yeah.
change that you're looking for. It's the thing
Yes.
you're wanting to create in your life. You're wanting to create a change because you're not happy where you are. You are
Mhm.
looking for something that's going to be fulfilling
Mhm.
and joyful and let you live. Yeah, let you live in alignment with who you really are, right?
Mhm.
Like your highest, best self, best version of yourself. Yeah.
So good, Mom. I love that. And that's such a good analogy for sobriety
Mm-hmm.
of like if you're on a long drive and you're halfway there and you're like, "Oh, this feels like it's taking forever. I'm never going to get like
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
don't
going to
turn
turn around and
around and
go
go
home."
home.
It's like if you just keep going. And so to think
You're
of
going to
like
get
if you're in a
there.
back and forth process with drinking,
Mm-hmm.
going back to drinking is like being on a long ride and just turning around and going home.
Mm-hmm.
And what you
And
said,
you already put in those hours,
yes.
right?
And
Yeah.
now you're just yeah,
Yeah.
and realizing that even though sobriety feels hard, what you're doing is so much harder by continuing to drink. I think
Yeah.
that's just so helpful because it's so easy to say like, "Oh my god, I want to get sober," but it's just so hard. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not just that like, how am I trying to articulate this? Feeling like it's just so hard, but then realizing drinking is harder and so therefore you're proving to yourself you can do hard. You are doing hard. You're
Right.
having to wake up and suffer. And like, so in that
Yes.
way, you are withstanding really hard things
That's right.
already, but it's the
Right.
kind of hard that keeps getting harder.
And
And
it's
sobriety is the kind of hard that gets better and
better.
easier as you go.
Yes, yes. And sobriety is the kind of hard that's going to reap really beautiful things in your life.
Yes.
Where drinking is the kind of hard that's just going to keep you in this state of destroying your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So good. So
you can
good.
do it, people.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
You can
Last
do it.
little pep talk for anyone who is like, oh my God, I have so many plans this summer. Summer's going to be so busy. I have to be in so many social situations with people who are going to be drinking. What's a little pep talk you'd give?
Yeah. I would say, how lucky are you? That's how I would approach it. How lucky are you that you have all of this opportunity to begin to experience this new version of yourself?
Oh, I love that.
Right? You have this opportunity to begin to live this transformation that's already happening. Right? And so we can always feel overwhelmed by life. We can choose to think that way about it. Or, my gosh, you can choose to say, wow, this is an opportunity for me. This is a really, honest to God, it's a divine opportunity because not everybody lives. Not everybody who is struggling with drinking gets on the other side of it. Right? And so you can really think about this, even though it's hard. And especially because it's hard, it will be so freaking rewarding for you to do all of these things and to do them sober and to have the opportunity to keep proving to yourself, I can do it. Every time you do it, you get a little more confident and a little more comfortable, right? And I'm like always like, oh my God, the gift you are giving yourself is yourself. You are going to find yourself through this, and you are going to find out just how capable you are, and you are going to discover the kind of life you're capable of creating for yourself. Like, nothing is impossible. This is an unlimited universe, right? Like, you can have your life any way you want it. So go for it. Like, go for broke, go all in on yourself. That's what I would say. Like, do it. It's fantastic that you have all these things to do. Like, honestly, that's what I would say. That's how I would approach it. And I would not allow myself to come at it any other way. I would come at it with sheer joy, with sheer gratitude, even if it's hard, even if it's going to feel uncomfortable, because that is where the growth is. That is where the magic is. That's where you want to be. You want to be on that edge, right?
So freaking good,
That's
Mom.
what I would
Holy
say,
crap.
Maddie.
Damn.
What would you say?
I'm not going to top that.
Come on. It's not about topping or not topping. Like,
no, I'm just like,
add to
damn,
it.
that's a powerful
Yes.
freaking place to leave
Right?
it.
But it's so true. I just don't want people to feel like, oh, summer, it's going to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard like that. It can be, oh, summer, this is going to be like challenging in the best possible way. Because it is. It's letting you see everything you're capable of doing. Right? And look, I was just reading a little bit this morning, Maddie. Pam Grout's book, Think and Grow Rich.
Wait, Mom?
Yes.
Mom,
What?
I kid you not. It has been on my shelf staring at me because I'm reading my Hub book club, and I decided ages ago that that's my next book because I read it before and I freaking loved it. And I remember you told me when you were reading it, you're like, "This is the happiest book of all time. You have to read it." And I
was
did.
just going to say that.
Okay, so I'm reading it next and I'm so excited for it. Okay, go on.
I was just going to say, this book, literally, I read,
it's so happy.
I don't know, 3 or 4 pages this morning, and I literally said to Sasha, You have to read this book. This is on you have to read just even a few pages from this book today. If you don't do anything else, read something from this. This book makes me happy.
Yep.
And so, one of the things she's saying in there, one of that I read this morning was about get up every day. And the first thing out of your mouth before you do anything else is to say, something absolutely incredible and amazing is going to happen today.
Yeah.
Right? Like to train your brain to start looking for all of the blessings, all of the opportunities, all of the gifts. Because look, like there's this invisible realm, and if we are not expecting it, it's not coming into our purview, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've got a blockade up. If you're looking for everything that's wrong, everything that's hard, everything that's challenging, and telling yourself it sucks because it's so hard, it's like that's what you get. That's what you're a vibrational match to. That's what's going to show up in your world. Or you can say, something amazing, exciting, fantastic is going to happen today, right? Whatever that is, just joy is seeping into my day. Good things are all around me. Just start looking for it, right? Look for that instead of the other. And anyways, I was reading her little blurb on that, and I was like, oh, I love this. It just makes me so happy. Like, I just want to live my life that way.
Yeah.
And I do for the most part. But I think there's something when I can be even more intentional about it that lights me up even more. Right? I think such simple things that can just create these beautiful little shifts in our day so that we experience life differently. Because we really do get what we focus on, whether we want it or not.
Yep.
So you can tell the story of misery, or you can tell the story of, I'm excited about today. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in my day. I'm going to appreciate whatever it is. Like, find things to appreciate. I'm telling you, it will change your life, and it will change what begins to show up in your life, right? Like, it will change opportunities that you get to connect with. Like, everything will shift in response to that. Yeah. I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but
no, I loved it. And you know what that makes me want to say, Mom?
What?
For everyone who says sobriety would be boring and suck, this is what 40 plus years sober looks like.
Yes.
Finding so much joy and gratitude in just getting to freaking live.
Yes. And let me say, it doesn't have to take you 40 years to get there.
Correct.
Right? You can start that right now.
Yes.
Like right now. So let's just say, let's not even put a number on it. Let's just say
I'm
this
just
is
saying,
what sobriety
here's
looks
someone
like.
40 years sober and look at how you live your life and have for many years.
Yes. Exactly. No, I know what you're saying. And I'm just saying, yeah, let's access that, everyone.
Right.
Whether you're one day, and I'm not saying there's not, it can be both. You can be in the grieving process and you can still, say, oh, okay, I'm going to find space today to find something to be thankful for, Yeah. Anyways.
Yesterday, I had a very up and down day.
Yeah.
I wasn't thriving in my brain yesterday.
Yes.
I still sat down and wrote my gratitude journal at the end of the night and went, oh, there was lots of good things in today too.
Yes.
It gets to be both. It gets to be both.
Right.
Of course, we're going to have hard times. Of course, we're not always 100%, but
I'm not always 100%.
Yeah.
I just have tools to manage my mind now.
Yeah.
So I don't stay down low.
Yeah.
As long,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes. Yeah. It is both. It has to be both.
Yeah.
It has to be both. You have to have the contrast to be able to appreciate. Yeah. The good things.
So good. So good. And the other thing, okay, so what I'll add about socializing sober specifically is to just remember that, like, first of all, you don't know. This is something I always like to add because it's so easy to watch other people and think they're having so much fun, people who are drinking, and you never, ever, ever know what their actual experience of drinking is. I always love to point out that I was someone who I was a quote fun drunk. I looked
Yeah.
like I was having a great time. Nobody in my life would have known how much I was
Yes.
struggling. And
Good
then I
point,
got sober.
Maddie.
So you might be watching someone who's supposedly having so much fun, feeling jealous,
Yeah.
and they could be struggling. They might be coming to you soon asking
Yeah.
for advice on getting sober, you know? So
Yeah.
just keep coming back to your own truth about it, especially as you're watching other people drink or you're around other people who are drinking,
So
to
good.
know that you only know your own experience. You know your own truth about alcohol. Whatever anyone else's experience may or may not be is irrelevant to yours.
Yeah.
So rather than watching them and go, they get to have so much fun, turn inwards and go, ooh, if I had picked up a drink, I would be in for a world of suffering tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I'm not going to be.
Yes.
And this is where you get to come back to yourself in every way that you just explained, Mom, and in everything that you just said. It's such an opportunity to get to connect with yourself. And that is so much better than the fleeting freaking buzz that we get from drinking that leaves us feeling so much worse. And I will say too, that like the confidence piece of it is such a lie, because we feel that's part of what makes it hard too, is like, oh, if I could just drink, I'd feel so much more confident. And like, play that forward. I felt like shit about myself leaving a party after drinking.
Yes.
I would feel so embarrassed. I would feel like I overshared. I embarrassed myself. I was a mess. People are judging me. Leaving any social gathering sober, I can feel good about who I am.
Yeah.
So even if you feel like there were awkward moments, or you like
Yes.
are still figuring it out, like that's again coming back to building that muscle. The hard feelings and the discomfort is the way through it to get to the other side, to build up those tools, to feel good about yourself, to feel confident, to feel like you can like be in that scenario. And like it just does take time. I like in the early days, I was like, I don't even like being in a social situation if I'm not drinking. Like that was how I felt at the end of my, how sad is that? I really genuinely felt like I don't even want to be around
Do
people if
anything if
we're
you're
not
not
drinking
drinking.
together. That's sad.
Wow, Madeline. So freaking sad.
Right?
Right?
And so like, don't
But
you
I
want to
think
be
so many
able
people
to
feel that way.
100%.
Right?
I went out over the weekend with my best friend from high school who has never liked drinking, never did. And myself in my drinking
Who's
days,
that? I don't mean the
I
person.
know.
I just mean what
No,
person.
but like can't relate, could never relate. But like myself drinking, every time I made a plan with her, I made it about drinking. That was freaking shitty of me. But it was like such a statement
She must
about,
have really liked you.
I know, right? Bless her.
Yeah.
But like now, whenever I hang out with her, of course it's sober, but I'm like, that must be a relief for her.
Yeah.
That it's not having to be about that. But that was never about her. That was about me, and the fact that that was my only route to fun at that stage in my life.
Yeah. Wow.
And like,
Look
how
at you,
good
and
to
look
be
at what
free
you
of
never
that.
would have known if
Exactly.
you hadn't quit drinking.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's waiting for everybody.
Yeah. And
They
it's a
get to know that.
process.
It
It is
is.
a process. It takes them time. It takes them adjusting. It takes them feeling uncomfortable, feeling sad, grieving it.
Yeah.
But on the other
That's
side,
the road to Disney.
freedom.
Yeah.
Disneyland.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So good, Mom. We're cheering everybody on. It's that time of
We
year. Social
are.
plans are getting busier.
Yeah.
Play
you
the
can do
freaking
it.
tape forward. You've got this. You never, ever, 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 ever regret staying sober the next day. Ever.
I love that. So true.
Right?
So true.
We're really the
But
lucky
you
ones. We
regret
really
that
are.
drink, that's for sure.
Every time. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
It's just so much better.
I know.
I just felt that, like, really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And like what life used to feel like. And it's so funny. And I know we're wrapping up, but it's just crazy to me now how I thought life would be so dull and depressing and nothing to look forward to. That was how I felt imagining sobriety. And like now, like even at this stage in my sobriety, I feel like it's still getting better and better and better. You just unlock new levels of like yourself and your own connection. And I've been so in my spirituality and so in my like routine. And like, it's just, I feel like this has been the best year yet of my sobriety.
Right. And it's going to keep getting better and better and better.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So, oh my God, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. It is worth it.
Don't give up. Don't give
up
up
on
do
yourself.
not do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And we're here for you. And if you need support, come join us in the Happiest Sober Hub.
Yeah.
Both of us. My mom and I both host meetings in there. It's such a freaking special, amazing community. So happiestsober.com. I do. happiestsober.com/hub, HUB, if you'd like to join us there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. This was such a freaking good one. I'm excited to put this out.
Chat,
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Thank you, Happies, for listening. We love you guys so much. We're cheering you on. You can do this. If you'd like some free extra sober tips and inspiration to your inbox, then subscribe to my weekly newsletter at happiestsober.com. Follow me on Instagram at Happiest Sober and check out my YouTube channel at Happiest Sober. New episodes come out every Tuesday, so we'll chat with you next week. I hope you have an amazing week. Remember, life's happiest when you're
sober.
Thanks, Mom.